Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 26. We've been going for 26 weeks straight for Wellbeing Wednesday, and it gives us great pleasure to welcome our today's speaker, Lisa Brassington, who works a lot in rural and is located in Frankston, on the fringes, the peri-urban fringe of Melbourne, which is a really interesting space to live in. Many fascinating issues that affect people living in those communities. Hello, Nosh. We've got Nosh. We've got Belle from Adelaide Hills. We've got Liz from WA. We've got Jessica, who has the border bubbles been expanded, and so she's able to get to her farm for the first time in 6 months. So we're very happy to hear that, Jessica. So my name's Cynthia Marnie, and I'm one of the hosts of Wellbeing Wednesday. I help people, teams and leaders understand how to perform at their best. So I work in the area of high performance, but particularly not so much your KPIs, but more around how do you use emotional courage, how do you use self-awareness in order to be able to have really meaningful conversations that shift how we do work with each other, particularly in teams. And I've got my co-host, Louise Thompson. Would you like to introduce yourself, Louise?
Oh, thank you, Cynthia. Well, yes, beaming in from Melbourne suburbs, and my daughter has just delivered a coffee from our local golf club cafe and a caramel slice. So I'm coming out of a 3-day health session, and I'm going to have the caramel slice to celebrate for that. Similar to Cynthia here, operating my business, I've just spent the morning kind of working with teams, talking about self-worth and strengths and overdone strengths and forming boundaries. So similar work, and great to have work. Very thankful for that. More work. So that's good. And like a few of you have already said, looking forward to our session today. It's great that it's halfway through the week, isn't it? It's that it tips us over to the end of the week and sets us up. So I'm happy to be here.
Great, Louise. And so I would like to welcome Lisa Brassington, who's with us today. And Lisa, I'd invite you to introduce yourself to everyone. You are one of our Wellbeing Wednesday frequent flyers, as we like to call people that have been with us regularly over these 26 weeks. So Lisa, you're familiar to many, but we'd love to hear a little bit about you.
Firstly, I'm normally in the car parked at the beach with these sessions, so it's very unusual to look forward and not see the beach and everyone walking past and dolphins and birds, but I'm actually very happy to see you. It's lovely. I'm Lisa Brassington. I currently live in Frankston at the top of the Mornington Peninsula. I live in a 5K bubble at the moment, which luckily for me includes 2 of my favourite farm gates, most of my parks, most of my shopping, 3 friends and the beach. So my 5K bubble is quite a happy bubble. So I've been very blessed to be in this 5Ks. Day to day, I work for local government authority, the Cardinia Shire Council, and I'm in their food and wellbeing space. It's called Cardinia Food Circles. That's 3 days a week. And then 1 day a week, I volunteer for the Australian Women in Agriculture group, and then the other day a week I volunteer for the Victorian Farmers Federation as the Mornington Peninsula committee member. So if I'm not eating, I'm doing something to do with food or ag. And then in my spare time, I'm communicating with friends and also my online Twitter friends, in which I value greatly. Hi.
Yeah, that's where a lot of us have met, actually. First was on Twitter before we got to meet each other in person. And Lisa, now tell me more about, so you're living in this peri-urban fringe area. Can you just tell me more about what does that mean? Why is it special, and what are the characteristics?
Yeah, I live on the Bunurong land of the Wurundjeri people. And of the Kulin Nation, this used to be their summer vacation spot. So they used to live up in the hills in the winter and then come down to the beach in summer. So the peri-urban areas outside of Melbourne, specifically the northeast, the southeast and the south, have a lot of lands and water that used to be swamplands and coastal lands. So it's very full of resources and beautiful nature. So the actual soils are excellent for things like horticulture and pasture. So traditionally with white man settlement, we've had a very strong dairy, cattle and horticultural industry. So that's kept what they call in Melbourne the green wedges alive, which is basically the veggie patch of Melbourne. So during sad times like droughts and bushfires, our region actually feeds a lot of Victoria and most of southeast corner of Australia. So when the bushfires were happening in northeast Victoria and southeast down in East Gippsland, a lot of the produce came from our region to feed Victoria and keep food on the shelves. So it's actually an unknown patch. Peri-urban Melbourne at the moment contributes up to 25% of Victoria's food and Melbourne's food. So it's one of those untapped, undervalued resources. And I think our region in Australia, it's either first or third, produces per square metre the most volume and value and quality of produce that goes on supermarket shelves per square metre. So we're very productive. Also, peri-urban spaces bring in the challenges of spreading cities. So whether it be Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, but peri-urban actually affects cities also over the population of 20 to 30,000 people. So there's always peri-urban ag between 5 to 15 k's on the edge of most towns with fertile soils and access to water. But for that, it makes it very dynamic. So our VFF branch challenges VFF state office because we're multi-commodity. So most branches are pro-cattle, pro-grains, pro-sheep, pro-wool, pro-fibre, but we're the lot. We do everything. So it makes for great gatherings and it makes for great passion in agriculture, and it makes for great opportunities to connect people to food and fibre.
Terrific. So interesting, Lisa, to hear that amazing mix of industries that you've got in such a, in a confined area. And then you've got that, what I would imagine would be challenging would be that relationship between the urban and the rural, and kind of the creep of urban into the rural, and then how communities manage that and negotiate and navigate that.
Yeah, there's always an expectation that there's always another paddock or always other land. So when they look to expand cities for settlement and to house people that need housing, they often forget that there isn't another paddock. The paddocks either don't have water, don't have rainfall, don't have climate, or for us on the peninsula, it's the Bass Strait. We fall straight off a cliff into the water. We have no land past our land. So we're currently 70% rural on the peninsula. Most of our settlements within 5.2 k's of the coastline. So yeah, it's quite amazing when you get down here. You can get lost. Literally, you can get lost.
Yeah, Louise, you love spending a bit of time down. That's your playground, isn't it, down there?
It is. It's my next home. That's our final home will be down there. Love. I used to live in Safety Beach.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. Now, Lisa, I'm very interested. It is Wellbeing Wednesday, so thank you for sharing a bit about your background. And I'm very interested to hear for you, what does wellbeing mean for you, and tell us more about your own wellbeing.
For me, it's calm and safe. Calm and safe are my indicators that I'm well or in a well space or a safe space. And finding happiness and joy regardless of what I'm doing. I sort of have a mantra. I'm not going to tell you what I can't do. I'm going to tell you what I can do. And, I can get yeah, when you work for local government, you can get people that aren't very happy to talk to you, and they, you know, they tell you that, and they may be having an experience that either you're impeding on or you can assist on. So I always find joy and happiness in something, because I'm not here to take away someone's dream. I'm here to enable a good decision so people can have the dreams that they need, but also, especially in the food space, help people understand that, you know, broccoli takes, you know, 8 to 16 weeks to grow. Helping people understand how to find the joy in challenges as well. I was saying to you earlier, regional Victoria has escaped the bubble. You know, you've been let out to play. The playgrounds are open. You can go anywhere without telling someone where you're going. And that's quite challenging, being not in that freedom space, but food goes on, farming goes on, ag goes on. So my joy and my happiness is the farmers that work in my region that are trapped in my area. I have to find a way that they can feel satisfied and still part of the food supply system during this hard time. So well-being for me is definitely, I have to keep a check on making sure I'm calm and happy, because that enables me to exist in a well space. And I seek it wherever I am at that time. And I also acknowledge it's either short, medium or long term. And I also don't codependent on it. I always check in with myself.
So tell me more about safe, calm and happy. How do you bring that? How do you bring that to yourself?
Intuition, the third that voice. I was really lucky. I did grow up on land up in northeast Victoria, and I had some great grandparents, and my grandfather taught me to be intuitive. So I'm someone that understands the weather, understands the climate, understands seasons. I'm very attuned to birds and to animals. So if birds behave in a different way, or if animals, like, you know, you can always tell which way the wind and the rain's coming because of the way the cows turn their backs to the bad weather. So I'm always in tune. You know, I've got the eyes open for my surroundings, and that intuition tells me whether or not I'm in a safe, well space, or I have to relocate or rethink or reframe.
So that's an amazing amount of self-awareness and using, well, we've been talking, I did Lisa Jolly's retreat on the weekend. Lisa was speaking yesterday, our online retreat, and she was talking a lot about the gut, and the gut being our third brain, and that there's so many connections going from the gut up to the brain, that, and it has such a huge effect on our well-being and our moods and everything about us. So I'm really fascinated, Lisa, that it sounds like you really are using that gut as a brain, like that you've got that intuition, gut feel that you're tapping into.
There's definitely a 100% link with me, that if I've got an upset tummy or I'm uncomfortable from, you know, downstairs, that I will be a bit anxious or a bit fidgety or a bit temperature uncomfortable. So I'm very in tune to, I think it's growing up where you go on 15 and 16 hour car drives and you're only allowed to go to the toilet once. you get accustomed to what your body can and can't do. And so with me, I have different pre-flight routines, pre-meeting routines, pre-presentation, pre-workshop routines. And I could say it's definitely related to the gut.
And
I hadn't really reflected on that before.
Tell us a little bit more about your these amazing mentors in your life. Tell us a little bit more about them. Where did they get their knowledge from, just being on the land, and how did you have that bond with them?
Yeah, I come from a long line, or multi-generations of people with service, whether it's CWA, CFA, Save the Children. My step-grandmother's family were full of missionaries that were in Samoa, Vanuatu, and doing Red Cross. So I've always come from a place of people I meet always have something that I can learn from. And I have quite an ageless approach to the people I meet. So I'm I'm very in tune to understanding that speaking to an elder, I'm the richness of that conversation. So my mentors are very wide ranging in age. Like I'm actually a business mentor to a young guy down here who's got a very successful coffee company, but he also is my mentor when it comes to what he does for charity. So my mentors have moved with space and place, but I'd have to say having a grandparent that had hardship, well, both my grandparents were definitely my what I call civic duty mentors, and they had a lot of hardship, and what they achieved in their life set me up for success of always making sure that if I'm going somewhere, someone has the ability to come with me, because together we're community, because you can't have leaders without followers, but a good leader makes a follower feel like they're part of the community. So I think some of my mentors at the moment, I've got a couple probably logged on at the moment. I noticed one of the names popped up and I won't embarrass them, but that particular person, I look to her as a mentor because she seeks adventure and is always in front of technology, when you would often say that she might not fit the square hole of that square identity, but in fact, you know, she's like an Amelia Earhart to me with what some of the things she does, and I really love it. So yeah, I don't often say out loud to people that they're my mentors, but I have that level of respect and wanting to share that space with them, and I'm always learning, and when I learn I try to give back with them.
So for your well-being, it sounds like you're very connected in with your intuition, your self-aware, you listen to yourself. You are also motivated by service and this giving back, and you're also motivated by connection and bringing people along and learning. So they're sort of some of the keywords I've got for you, Lisa, about what stimulates your well-being. Of service, there's so much research around volunteers and how much the positive impact that has on well-being. So what kinds of activities are you involved in, and how do they add to your sense of well-being?
I'm on a on the Mornington Peninsula called Best Bites food program, which assists food premises move from food safety through to excellent nutrition, making sure their premises are abled and disabled friendly, all those sorts of things. And that enables me to give back to my community that I enjoy as a consumer, as a local. Like, I love nothing better than to go into a food premises that has got the 5 stars. They've achieved the innovation to go for solar, the innovation to do recycled water in their veggie patch. I just love seeing other people thrive, because it actually thrives the community that I then either reinvest in as a consumer or exist in as a space that I enjoy to be in. So it's kind of that circular economy. And like a family member said to me, if I did less volunteering and more working, I wouldn't have a mortgage. But if I did more work and less volunteering, I wouldn't be as connected to my community. So my richness would be lower. I would be poorer for that. So I value my richness of, if my community is thriving and I'm enjoying those spaces, then, you know, I'm with happy people, they're with happy people, it attracts happy people, and it becomes a space that people want to be in. And I've been part of that steering committee since 2012, and we've definitely gone from L to P plates to, you know, triple gold, platinum now, I would say. And I'll give you some links that you can share with everyone that's listening so they can watch a few videos. But I feel that if I'm not volunteering, I'm not part of my community. Like, that's a non-negotiable for me. So.
Oh, Lisa, that is just so interesting about that shift in perspective of what richness is. That richness is more than the dollar, it's actually, it's that contribution and growing other people, and that's amazing. Good reminder for everyone, I think. And so something that you've just said there about communities of place and being part of a community of place. Now, we were talking earlier in the week or last week, and you mentioned and I know, I know you from online as well as I'm very lucky to know you in person as well. Louise knows you from online. And so you not only, though, have a really important role in your community of place, but you also have a really important role in a bigger online community or communities. And we spoke of how that's been it's been a bit tricky through this pandemic to manage. Can you just, and for your well-being, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, look, I definitely believe we exist in virtual villages. Like, I believe every time I meet someone that I have a really strong connection with, that person is a village member of mine that I was always meant to meet and I'm always meant to coexist with in some level. So I have found Twitter specifically has become that village of me meeting my virtual neighbours per se. So the richness of that enabled me during the day to have what I'd call an analogue relationship with, my husband, because we're in the same physical space, an analogue relationship with my cafe, my park, my beach, my farm gates where I buy my food. And also in my job, I have a wonderful face-to-face job, so I can have interpersonal relationships there. So I was able to separate, sort of stack my life, stack my relationships, and have them as multi-dimensional. So it's a little bit like you can put your pegs on the shelf. And the minute it hit the 16th of March and the 23rd of March, when local governments asked their employees to work at home, volunteering for some of the groups I do are online or on the phone, but VFF and the Best Bites program are very much in space in place. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, my analog and digital spaces became one. So I lost my controlled siloing of my time, my space, my place. And I felt like I went from a 3D person into a 2D, do you know what I mean? Like an animated version of myself, not an interactive third dimensional person of myself. So that has probably been the biggest challenge during this time, that I have competence and confidence to live online, but I thrive equally as much offline. But some of the richness of where they meet in the middle is when I do get to meet my Twitter and other friends face to face, and we do hang out and have adventures. And post-pandemic is what I'm really looking forward to. And shout out to everyone online. I'm coming to see you. I'm jumping in the car and I'm driving to see all my Twitter friends face to face. Don't know how, don't know when, but that's happening. That's a non-negotiable within a period of time.
Fiona Lake's waving to you from Townsville, and Liz Brennan over in WA is going, woohoo. So tell me more about that, how that impacted on your well-being, like that situation.
So initially it was very draining because people turned to me as a communication expert, I suppose I would put the hat on for, because I know how to work online. So I was having a lot of people saying, Lisa, you've got to help me do this, I can't do this, etc. So in the very short term, I became a bit of a train the trainer, workplace trainer for people that didn't know how to translate themselves from the analog to the digital, from the 3D to the 2D. And that my heart was doing it for people because I wanted them to have, or excuse me, have the success and the stability, but at the same time, it drained my battery. Like straight up, that first month, I got so drained straight up. But the upside is the local government I work for has been a paperless office since 2014. It's been funky digital since then, and we're probably the most leading council in Victoria. So I was working at the right place at the right time that suits who I am in the space I am to have the support I've got. So I love that.
And Lisa, I was just looking at my notes that I wrote when we were talking earlier, and so you were saying, yeah, you enjoyed the separation of the analog and digital space, and you also talked about. I hope this is okay to mention. Tell me if it's not. Just
no, go for it.
You said about your online persona.
Yeah, so everyone knows Beyonce has her Sasha Fierce. You know, Beyonce.
Just explain that in case people don't.
Okay, off stage, Beyonce is Beyonce. That's the name she was given at birth. That's who her siblings and her family know her as. But when she gets on stage, she's Sasha Fierce. That's the identity she has that gives her the energy to perform in the time, with the space, with the excitement. So also too, I find with you, Cynthia, when I meet you and sometimes I see you, you're either Cynthia yourself or air hostess Cynthia. So head of the cabin crew, welcoming me on board to improve my life. So I also do have a professional and a personal persona, and just to protect my identity at the moment, I won't give it away online at the moment, but some people do know I do have two. And what it does for me...
You've got two social media identities.
I exist online in all platforms as two people, because one is my professional position, and one is my personal, how I feel about things without getting myself into trouble, or supporting causes that professionally I shouldn't be supporting. I don't know, I'm not explaining it very well, but it's an outlet for me. It's an outlet. And I learnt that very early on, that I do have a lot to say, but I am smart enough not to say anything without knowing what I'm talking about, because I don't want to throw myself under the bus. But I have fun with two personas. You know, one persona gives me that connection to the most strangest group of people I would never meet face to face. But my professional one gives me such an opportunity to learn and grow in my professional space. And I love it. And I, look, without sounding too silly, I do highly recommend that sometimes step out of it, step out and give yourself that space. Like, I have a rule: I will not be friends on Facebook with people I work with. That's inside my front fence. Facebook is inside my front fence. And if I walk out of that space and walk out of that workplace, I will then link in with the people that I want to move forward with on a personal relationship. But there are certain times and boundaries that you need safety and safe space, and you need to be able to flourish as yourself. And I also use Facebook as a bit of a blog. You know, I put up everything that's going on. So I learnt that I am a journaler. I didn't realise that, but I watched the who was the fellow that used to run the Playboy Mansion? Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner.
I watched Hugh Hefner's biography. They did a documentary on him, and he journaled from the age of 7. And he was actually a brilliant writer, a brilliant observer of the social condition. And so I have found, and I have done this pretty much every day since, I'll either take screenshots, save articles, share articles, something every day, so that to the point that when I pass, my digital clutter will be large. So, yeah.
That is so interesting, Lisa. And again, I love it because, Louise, we haven't talked about Sasha Fierce or taking on a second identity in Wellbeing Wednesday as a strategy. Like, it just sounds like such a powerful way of giving yourself permission to
Yes.
to do things that you might not feel comfortable with in your normal self.
Yeah. I also control, it's like switching TV stations. In my professional space, I use muting accounts, muting words, muting spaces, etc. So that when I'm in my professional space, I am not getting confused or sidetracked by things I don't want to take on, learn, or carry at the time.
Mm.
And then in my other space, it's just sort of open slather to what's going on in the world. So I can sort of switch it on and off, sort of thing.
And Lisa, just wondering too, in terms of, because you're an avid Twitter user, and Twitter can be, I am too, and it can be quite a, there's a lot of outrage on Twitter that I find I get affected by at times. And it's, luckily though, I generally don't just react, I guess. Luckily, I usually take a breath and don't get angry on Twitter, or not. Actually, I never get angry on Twitter because that's not who I want to be. But how do you navigate that space in terms of your well-being? I mean, you've mentioned blocking. But
so when you become a bit of a seasonal communicator, you know, the people that sort of pop up just to wind up. So you got your pop-up wind-uppers. And if I feel like poking a bear, I'll jump onto the naughty account and poke the bear. But if I feel like they don't need to be in my space, they join the curation of the shelf that I've got for muted accounts. Because I don't need that. Because I value what I contribute to my community and my industry, that I don't want to be sidetracked from the value that I will want to share with people that, you know, I highly value in a reciprocal relationship. But at the same time too, like, again, it comes back to my intuition. I'm a bit wacky on the old intuition. Like, I don't know whether, I saw a clairvoyant once, and she told me I was clairvoyant, that I had connection. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. My nana had connection, and that was an amazing space to grow up in. So occasionally I will wake up at 3:23 a.m. and there's been something happen, like, and so Twitter sometimes acknowledges some of the connections with the world that I do have, and acknowledges I am a little bit normal. But going back to your question, if you don't feel safe, if you would not invite that Twitter account handle into your lounge room to have a safe conversation, you don't need to do it online. You don't need to change your safety values or your assertiveness, or to hold an equal or valuable space with someone you don't think you're being safely surrounded by or valued by. And you can practice that on social media as well.
And Lisa, you've mentioned the word safety a number of times, and that sounds like that's a really big part of your well-being. And what does safety mean to you?
Well, if you're not safe, you go into fight or flight. Fight or flight drains your batteries. And I don't want to live a drained battery existence. So, and to me too, I unfortunately have had things, I have not had a blessed life with some things, and I have had 3 near misses where I haven't existed on this earth. So safety to me is a paramount space, because currently the battery draining. So I have to be very aware of that too. But equally so, if I've had those experiences, there are some people around me that have had the same experiences. And so at that time, their batteries might be draining, and they may need help from a hello through to a, can I ring someone for you? So, you know, we've been touched by suicide. We've lost 3 men in our family. So for me, safety is very multifaceted, and you cannot, in my eyes, you cannot have well-being if you don't have the batteries within yourself, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. So I think safety is the English language word for that for me, not realising I'd bring that up today. But yeah, I think that's my crux of well-being. I can be well if I can get up and get going.
And Lisa, just from what I know about you as well, that you really are a person that is also very concerned with the safety of others, and I know through this COVID time in particular, you know, you do have a lot to do with mental health and keeping checks on people, and so can you tell us a little bit more about that, and again also how you kind of bubble yourself to be caring but also still have your battery charged?
Yeah, look, I'm no longer a first responder. My very first career was radiography. So I used to work in emergency departments and do x-rays and things like that. So we would be presented with car accident victims, burns victims, etc. So I have worked in a role before where it is life and death. So I do know that overall feeling of that complete, you really want to look after someone, but it's very exhausting. And so I know that there's people that I'm surrounded by that have never worked in a life and death job before. So proportionality and currency and getting through that hour or getting through that day has a different proportion and a different effect on someone compared to me. And if I can identify that and the person doesn't realise they're asking for help, but I can see that, I don't need to reflect tomorrow that yesterday I should have said something, because I don't want to be presented tomorrow with a situation that person's found themselves in something they couldn't get out of because they didn't have a supportive person that could give them real-time perspective. And that's, I don't judge, by the way. Judgment doesn't enter my mind. Judgment doesn't enter my my verbal interactions with people. I have lived a life of judgment from the fact that I've won fashions on the field. I've done all sorts of things through fashion, through photography. So I've lived a life of judgment of she either looks great or doesn't look great, through to why are you such a big person now, Lisa, because you used to look spectacular when you're in fashion, those sorts of things. So I've removed judgment out of my life because of how awful it's made me feel. So with people, when I feel that my interaction will add value to them, I don't do it out of judgment. I do it out of the kindness of opportunity at the time. So during COVID, in my board role with the Australian Women in Agriculture, we have had dial-in reach outs where some of the women, especially in Victoria, can just come onto Zoom and have a bit of a chat and a bit of a connect, because it's been pretty rough for some people. And as much as you might have a lovely husband or lovely children or lovely neighbours, sometimes you want to speak to someone that you know you can trust or be in a safe space with, that knows where you're coming from and can just give you that gem that will get you through the day. And that also helps you with your other relationships or your time management or your batteries.
Thank you, Lisa, for being so open there. Really appreciate that. I think I actually, on my online retreat, identified judgment as a word that was going on with me at the moment, judging myself very harshly. So I think it is definitely something that you know we all do. And I know I've heard a lot of parents at the moment saying that they feel pretty ordinary in Victoria. Sorry, this is very Victorian, because they're homeschooling and they're trying to work and they feel like they're not able to do both very well, and that they're kind of failing at everything. So I think that being kind and also that checking in with other people is really important.
How awesome would it be, like I was a child of the 70s. I had a pretty cool life in the 70s as a child, but how awesome would it have been to spend a whole half a year with your parents one-on-one? Do you know what I mean? Like, how often do you walk around and go, oh, do you want to know what my HSC score was? Do you want to know what I achieved in grade 6? Like, you know, when you catch up for coffee, you don't say that. You say, I remember when we used to go and do this, or pick mushrooms, or look at the horses in the paddock. Like, you don't ever say, gosh, I wish my parents had forced me harder at school. So I think the silver lining of this is that parents and children have had the most amazing opportunity to build a relationship some generations will never get.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful, Lisa. And I also wanted to ask you, because I thought it was really important. So you said that in 2017 you read Living in the Present by Eckhart Tolle, and you watched his videos. And can you just tell me what effect that had on you and what you've learned from that and how it impacted on your well-being?
Yeah, so in 2015, as an adult, I broke my first bone. I'd never broken a bone, and I broke my arm pretty badly. So I had time out, and then I went rock climbing after that and fell off a mountain and nearly died. So it was kind of like, I think I better just do some safe things. Oprah's got this guy on her book list. I might read him. She raves about him. Oh, he's got some videos. I might watch him. So I did. I did something I normally don't do, and I read a book and watched a series. And in that, he was talking about the present, the actual minute second of the breath of the present, like right now, right, And I thought, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then he's like, how often do you do something new a day? How often do you think about what you do every day? And how often do you do something different? So I thought, in 2017, I will live the 365 days doing one thing different or one thing new a day, big or small. Leading into 2017. So 2016, I'd set up for 2017 to be the different thing. So that led me to do the e-leadership course with the National Rural Women's Coalition, which enabled me to invent a program that I then wanted to work out how I could get financed and supported in an IT role. So then that gave me the opportunity to enter the Rural Women's Award, to put that program up as the award to try and get the bursary to get it funded. And also through that gave me the opportunity to receive a grant to go to UTAS to do a master's in horticultural business. So the decision to do some different things and to take on some different things led to a compression domino effect of some amazing stuff happening for 2 years between 2017, 2018, and then leading on to 2019. And it was all because of having the adventurous side to do something different a day.
And what are how did you take some of that into COVID with you?
Okay, so first of all, I couldn't change it. I just had to abide by the rules that were set. So I had to do my list of what you could and couldn't change. So what was I in control of? I was in control of 1 hour a day. I was in control of what time I could do that during the day, and I was in control of where I could do that a day. So 5 kilometre bubble. Most people in my area have all streets. So you could do 5 kilometres of streets, zigzag it. But fortunately for me, 1/3 of my bubble is the beach. So I decided to do things like drive down streets, ride or walk down streets in my 5K bubble I've never been in. Go to different, find out all the different churches, charity shops, etc. So I've literally gone on a bit of an adventure hunt of my 5 kilometres, because how often do you have a favourite place, space, person that you will drive out of your space to get that interaction with? So I even had a chat to one of my local coffee shops. They've got they're actually 8 k's away, so they're not currently local. They've got a coffee bus. So I suggested that so I could enjoy their coffee, can they park their bus near a church near me so I can actually get that coffee? So I have been trying to do something different every day, and we're up to week 26, and I even forced my husband into doing something different. Because I love international movies and films and things. I've got a really good ear for Italian and Spanish and French, so I'm pretty good with watching films. So I've made him watch all the Swedish crime films and movies and things. So my new thing a day is watching his joy of understanding some of the things I love. So yeah, if you can't change it, enjoy it.
And you also, just before we wrap up and we hear your 3 top tips for well-being, you also said that, I loved it, you said every day is an opportunity for adventure, whether it's in centimetres, metres or kilometres.
Yep.
How good is that? And then you also said something about which shade, dark and heaviness. It's a monster you can't control. Eat the pieces I can.
Yeah, so I have found, because I've got friends and family all over the world, everyone's had a different experience. And this time, it could be quite easy to be stuck in a dark corner, dark place, dark thought, etc. I just don't have the resilience, and I just don't have, the appetite to even entertain that, because not only is it too scary, but it's just too big to get into, to get out of. So I haven't actively avoided it, but I have positively looked towards the light, as in to find things that are of joy and happiness.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's amazing, that just the management of mindset and how you choose to look at things. And sounds like you've got great self-management techniques, Lisa.
It's been through trial and error, experience, immersive learning.
So just to wrap up before I hand over to Louise, what are your 3 top wellbeing tips for our viewers?
Okay, so they're going to be a bit wacky.
Love it.
But tip number 1, know the weather and the climate you exist in. We're all living beings. We're as much a living being as a flower, a tree. So for me, if I don't know the weather and the climate that I'm in, I don't know how I may react to my space, because I might be a bit flat on a cloudy day. I might be a bit happy on a sunny day. And it also helps me prepare my wardrobe for the next day, by the way. But know the weather that you're in, because we are seasonal beings. We're meant to have seasons, times, rhymes, etc. So for me, if I don't, it's something I need to know. I need to know my weather around me. And part of that is not only an app, part of that is taking your shoes off, walking outside, looking up, going to a park, going somewhere, seeing what the weather is. Because for me, weather is, I suppose I'm solar energy. I suppose my battery's solar and wind powered, I suppose, because I'm so in tune with the weather. And I spectacularly love a most magnificent thunder and lightning storm. So I think I get super boosted during lightning and thunderstorms. So I'm lucky enough to have the most wicked cliffs near my house. So I rock down there and I'll be out there. Like, we had this amazing winter storm last year. I've got this video where I look like one of those nuts on American TV saying, I think we're in a hurricane, and and you go inside and stand out there, and I was, and I thought, no, stuff it. This is the most amazing, invigorating experience. So weather's one of them. Number 2, make sure your bed is facing east, because the way the earth, you know how the earth rotates? Have you ever stood on a ball and the ball's going one way and you're going the other way? What are you going to do? Don't you fall off if you don't go in the same direction? So with east, if you sleep and wake the way the earth's moving, you get brought up by gravity, but you also get woken up by sunrise, because the sunrise comes to you. So I always have to face east. No, I look to the east, not. So I suppose my bed head's on the west. So you wake up, and then when you go to sleep, the west is behind you, so your head goes down. So that's number 2. So that's the wacky one. And number 3, I've got so many, but I think number 3 for me is always connect with an animal. Just always connect with an animal, whether it's a bird, whether you have a stare out with, I love nothing more than having stare outs with seagulls on the car bonnet at the beach. You know how you can meet eye to eye and you're wondering exactly what they're thinking. But I always find if you can have a connection with an animal, I think they have an aura that can give you the most amazing energy. Like, I sat on a folded up chair for 7.5 hours on a cliff near where I live, because there was a whale with her calf and she was just playing and didn't want to move in this area. She was safe. And the aura coming off that whale was so intoxicating. I forgot I needed to go to the toilet. I forgot I needed to eat. I forgot I needed to go home. And when she finally moved and I finally moved, I had had the most amazing experience. And that had validated in language to me that I realised every day I connect with an animal. So I think they're my three.
Beautiful. Well, we haven't had those before, Louise. It's a first. I love it. Thank you.
Absolute first.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Look, Louise, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Cynthia. Thank you, Lisa. There was a question back earlier from Elizabeth. Yes, so the fact, Lisa, you do only have 24 hours in a day, and with your vast array of interests, where is it? How do you refine where you invest your energy or select the things that bring the most joy?
Yeah, I definitely have different activities for different days. Like Formula One Grand Prix fan. I haven't missed the Grand Prix since 1996. So I know what window of time is my rev head, redneck rev head time. But on the other time, I have sort of my ag community time. But we have had the misfortune of not having the success of having children. So my household doesn't have children in it. So I have got more time and more ability to do things as an adult than some of my friends do. So I basically connect. It's hard answer. It's actually a really good question because I haven't really reflected on it. But like the other night, I went to a conference in Brussels in Belgium, and I stayed up between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. because I could. I was tired for work, but I could. So yeah, look, I have an equal amount of routine and an equal amount of spontaneity to give me what I want to do when I want to do it.
So then, have you acquired that, given your 2016, 2017, do something different every day? Is that allowed to come up? Yeah, okay.
Definitely, 100%. Getting to that point in your life where you realise you are or are not living in the present gives you the ability to slow down time, own time and use time.
Own time and?
It gives you the ability to slow down time, use it and own it. So you can own that hour instead of lose that hour.
Right. Fantastic. That's great. So, Elizabeth, does that answer your question there? That's a great one. Just scanning, lots of compliments there, Lisa, that you're truly original. And as Cynthia said, I wouldn't say wacky, top three, unique, absolutely unique. And yes, we all... Oh, it's nice to say. I can't see the smiling. I haven't got the right glasses to see my chat screen, but and Cynthia's just typed the point about connecting with an animal. I think that's done it for a lot of us. Nosh said, Lisa, you are a biophiliac. What is that?
Someone who's addicted to nature, I think.
Ooh, is that what you were intimating there, Nosh?
Catherine, sleep. I don't. I pretty much that's one of my inadequacies is sleep. So that bites me on the bum sometimes, and that affects my batteries.
Oh.
But I never have. The day I was born, like you asked my parents, I was a bugger because I didn't sleep. But at the same time, I didn't cry either. So Dad said that we would freak them out because I'd just sit up in my cot and just watch them. Because I'd be just there going, okay, guys, why are you asleep? What's going on? Come on, let's do something.
There's things to be done. Oh, okay. So yeah, you've picked up that question. That's great. I mean, when Lisa told us last week, her number one tip was sleep, wasn't it? And her number one related to your number one number two about the bed facing east, so you can see the sunrise and how maybe that helps you. Maybe you don't need that amount of sleep if you're seeing that east. And
if I can get my mind to be quiet, I can sleep. So when I sleep, I sleep. I have an eye mask, and if I choose at 3:30 p.m. I'm going to sleep, when, you know, during this lockdown, I will have a 15-minute sleep. So, you know, and I've learned that from long haul driving, you know, where you can't fall asleep at the wheel. So I've learned not to sleep, but I've learned to safely not sleep. But then I've learned to power nap safely as well. So I think that's all from being a country kid, and, you know, staying awake for my dad as well when he's driving.
Yeah, keeping an eye on him. Oh, that's fantastic. So we can, yes, we can condition ourselves, can't we?
Yep. And recognise it. I'm really good at recognising when I'm tired. So I don't push it. But one of my new adventures, I've got a sister who's got 3 children who now lives in country Victoria, and so I'm an aunt. I've never been an aunt before, so that's my first foray into little kids. So when parents are bashing themselves up at the moment with their homeschooling, I've been the aunt, because I had an awesome aunt, so I want to be my awesome aunt as well. I've been sending them weekly packages of school books and colouring in and chalk and just all those, oh, we got a parcel, what's in the parcel, sort of, you know, little kids thing. Because I thought, if I was the niece Lisa and my aunt was doing things to look after me, what type of things would she be doing? So I'm quite enjoying playing sort of secret aunt at the moment, happy aunt.
That's beautiful. That whole anticipation of opening up, what's in the parcel today? That's our life at the moment here in our house at 23 Viewmount Place, Sandhurst. You can send us a package anytime, Lisa. There's a delivery. We run to the door. Who's it this time?
I know. Who's our visitor today? Oh my God, it's the guy delivering the vegetables. Oh.
Yes, we love it. So, how are we going? We just tipped over to 2 o'clock. Cynthia, you might wrap it up there. And thank you, Lisa, for being our number 26, lucky number 26 for Lisa, and being our guest. We're lucky too. And I know, Cynthia, you need to toddle off.
Yep, that's right. So just a reminder to everyone, we'll be back here next week, same time, same place. And we have one of our participants who's going to be our guest next week, and that is Steph Schmidt, who is a psychologist from New South Wales. Steph, I think, just recently had a baby, so I had to put off being a guest on Wellbeing Wednesday until she just had maybe a couple of weeks to South Australia. Oh my God, South Australia. That's right. We're really happy to have you, Steph, because we've been a bit light on for our South Australian women. So we had Belle, and now
number 2.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. So yeah, we'll look forward to, need to do the photo. I'll stop recording, but look forward to seeing you all next week. And Louise and Lisa, I think, are going to hang around and have a little chat for those who want to stay. And I need to dash, so I will stop recording. Oh, I'm not the host anymore. Actually,
I am. Will I do that?
Stop recording. Beautiful, thanks. Okay.